Good morning. I hope everybody's having a good summer. This is Keenan. She's helping me out today, and I'm Janet Beeman. I was a teacher in the Vermillion School District for 15 years and a graphic artist at the University of South Dakota for 15 years. So I've been in art all my life, love it, and I want to share some projects with you through the Messy Hands Art Camp. We're going to do clay projects. The first one we're going to do is a clay fish. These fish here are samples of a little one and a big one. I want you to use texture on these and pattern. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But what you need for supplies is the air dry clay in your kit. You need a needle tool, a rolling pin, a small bowl of water and a sponge, tools for texture, which you can find around the house, anything that can make an impression on the clay to make the pattern or the texture. Then you'll need paint and paint brushes when everything is completely dry to paint your fish. So texture, actual and simulated texture is what you make when you do a drawing and you try to make it look bumpy, but when you touch it, it's really not bumpy, it just looks bumpy. And actual texture is like when you walk out and touch the tree bark and it's actually bumpy. That's actual texture. You're going to be putting actual texture into your clay. You will be able to feel that texture on the fish when you're done. So that's something to think about. And pattern is when you have repetition of texture or line or color. It's a pattern of color or texture. So step one, I want you to Google fish on the computer if you have a computer, or look to some books for samples of fish. I have a little guide here. This is going to be a handout in your kit, so you can look at different kinds of fish from Hawaii. Doesn't matter where they're from, but it'll give you a reference. And you can make up your own fish. You can be creative and say, this is solely my creation. Don't have to copy a real fish. Okay, so you want to prepare your surface because you're going to be cutting, and maybe mom or dad doesn't want you to cut on the surface. So put down a piece of plastic to roll your clay out, or a kitchen towel, a cotton kitchen towel works also. And then your clay will not stick to the surface that you're working on. All right, so here we go. Make a ball with your clay about 3 inches in diameter, about like this, little size of a small orange, and we're going to roll that out with your rolling pin. Give that one to Keenan. Alright, so go from the center out. You want your clay to be kind of consistently the same thickness, and we're going for 1/4 inch, which on the handout I showed you what a 1/4 inch looks like. So, and you want to roll it out to about 4 inches by 8 approximately. You don't have to use a ruler to do that. You can see.
You can use the 2-finger trick.
You can use the 2-finger trick too. And it can be a little less than 1/4 inch. That's just a reference also. So after you've rolled that out, I want you to, if you have your fish, you can draw it out before you start if you want to draw it out on a piece of paper so that you have your plan. Then when you have it rolled out, you're going to take the needle tool, and I want you to draw your fish lightly with the needle tool. Don't press too hard, because then you can stop and say, oh, I don't like the way that looks. I'm going to smooth that back out. So just to show you, if you draw lightly and you don't like it, then just take your finger and it kind of erases it then. So you can start over. And it doesn't have to be exact. So I'm going to just do this one again. Do you have an idea for your fish?
Yeah, it's on this.
Okay, you're going to need this when I'm done then. So draw your fish lightly, and make sure and put your fins all on there together. Put the tail there. And I say, okay, I like that. Then I'm going to press down and cut it out. If you have trouble, you can take the sponge with a little bit of water on it. It smoothly cuts if you're having any trouble. Then you're going to take your extra clay off the outside and ball it back up and put it in a plastic bag because you're going to save it for one of our other projects that's coming up next. So put it in a plastic bag so it doesn't dry out. There we go. Okay. One thing you should do before you forget is to put a small hole on the top if you want to hang your fish up on the wall. If you don't, that's okay, but putting a hole with a tool in the top so that you can hang it on a nail and kind of ream it out from both sides. So there you go. Okay, I've got my hole in. And now I'm going to use some textures. Fish have a lot of different patterns, and you'll see that on the guide that I gave you. But you can take the end of a pen and make little holes, random, and put as many as you want on here. Just have fun with the texture. The end of a marker makes bigger holes, and maybe that can be what you make your eye with. Can you see that? There's the end, just the end of a pen, and this is the end of the marker for the eye. And just the end of a fork can give you little, you can take the end of the fork and make it look like fins, if you can see that. Yeah, so just, and scales. You know, fish have scales, so you can use the end of a spoon. You can see how that works. Make your fish scaly. So, go ahead, and I think I used 6 or 7 different textures on this fish and the little fish. So just have fun creating those patterns and texture with whatever you find around the house. I'm sure you'll find some really creative things. Then let your fish dry. You want it to dry flat, so if you have a light magazine, in the house, put a piece of saran wrap from the kitchen, put that down over it, and then put that magazine on it, or you know, a light catalog or something. The reason is if it dries quickly, they might curl up and then not be flat. So you kind of want to let that pressure on it a little bit, but you want it to be able to dry. So it might take a couple of days for it to be completely dry, but you want it to be dry because if you put paint on it too soon, the clay gets wet again and starts smearing. So you can feel it too. You'll be able to feel that it's dry. And then use all kinds of colors. You have paint in your kit. You can mix the colors from the basic red, yellow, and blue, and black, and white. So mix it up, hang your fish up, step back, and smile at it. Hope you had fun with this, and good luck. We'll move on to the next project that's in your kit.